It's a very sensitive topic, and they get upset when we expose their false stories. They say that we can't criticize their dishonest coverage because of the First Amendment. You know, they always bring up the First Amendment. And I love the First Amendment. Nobody loves it better than me. Nobody. Say, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. These are foolish people.
We'll get to a few video clips in a moment, but I want to show you a couple of headlines that show how Donald Trump feels about the First Amendment. He is against freedom of speech and freedom of the press. Trump threatens to weaken First Amendment protections for reporters. Donald Trump is threatening to weaken First Amendment protections for reporters if elected president, which he has been, and make it easier for him to sue them. He says, I love free press. I think it's great. But he adds, we ought to open up libel laws, and I'm going to do that. He wants to be able, if the press says something that he does not like, he wants to be able to sue them and get a financial gain out of attacking the First Amendment. On freedom of the press, Donald Trump wants to make America like England again. Donald Trump's presidential campaign is all about American greatness, unless the subject is freedom of the press, in which case he thinks England is much more tremendous than the United States. Now I want you to take a look at a few of these video clips to really get an idea of what Donald Trump thinks about the First Amendment, freedom of speech and freedom of the press.
It's closing that internet up in some way. Somebody will say, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. These are foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We've got to maybe do something with the internet. And believe me, if I become president, oh, do they have problems. They're going to have such problems. And one of the things I'm going to do, and this is only going to make it tougher for me, and I've never said this before, but one of the things I'm going to do if I win, and I hope I do, and we're certainly leading, is I'm going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. We're going to open up those libel laws so that when the New York Times writes a hit piece, which is a total disgrace, or when the Washington Post, which is there for other reasons, writes a hit piece, we can sue them and win money instead of having no chance of winning because they're totally protected. You see, with me, they're not protected because I'm not like other people, but I'm not taking money. I'm not taking their money. So we're going to open up those libel laws, folks, and we're going to have people sue you like you never got sued before.
In the past, you've talked about wanting to amend laws and rework things to make it easier to sue. Do you think that there's too much protection allowed in the First Amendment?
Well, in England, they have a system where you can actually sue if somebody says something wrong. Our press is allowed to say whatever they want and they can get away with it. And I think we should go to a system where if they do something wrong, I'm a big believer, tremendous believer in freedom of the press. Nobody believes it stronger than me. But if they make terrible, terrible mistakes, and those mistakes are made on purpose to injure people, and I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about anybody else, then yes, I think they should be, you should have the ability to sue them.
So you'd like to see the laws closer to what they have in England?
Well, in England, you have a good chance of winning if they, and deals are made and apologies are made. Over here, they don't have to apologize. They can say anything they want about you or me, and there doesn't have to be any apology. England has a system where if they're wrong, things happen.
So that's the words out of his own mouth. Donald Trump is against freedom.
Why? What has caused this? Negative or critical press coverage of Donald Trump is making them explore a constitutional amendment to limit press speech. When I saw the headline, Pat, I thought, it's exaggerated, right? It's probably just limited to libel laws or something like that, right? Wrong. They are thinking about a constitutional amendment to control speech.
There was what he said about opening up the libel laws, tweeting, the failing New York Times has disgraced the media world, gotten me wrong for 2 solid years, change the libel laws. That would require, as I understand it, a constitutional amendment. Is he really going to pursue that? Is that something he wants to pursue?
I think it's something that we've looked at, and how that gets executed or whether that goes anywhere is a different story. But when you have articles out there that have no basis or fact, and we're sitting here on 24/7 cable companies writing stories about constant contacts with Russia and all these other matters.
Do you think the president should be able to sue the New York Times for stories he doesn't like?
I think that newspapers and news agencies need to be more responsible with how they report the news. I am so tired.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. It's about whether or not the president should have a right
and
to
I already
sue
answered
them.
the question. I said this is something that is being looked at, but it's something that, as far as how it gets executed, where we go with it.
I always bring up the First Amendment. And I love the First Amendment. Nobody loves it better than me. Nobody will say, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. These are foolish people. These are foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We've got is closing that internet up in some way. Somebody will say, oh, freedom of speech, freedom of speech. These are foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We have a lot of foolish people. We've got to maybe do something with the internet. And believe me, if I become president, oh, do they have problems. They're going to have such problems.
All the militia is concerned citizens that are worried about their Constitution getting flushed down the toilet. We're not putting up with that stuff. We want people to understand that we love the Constitution, we love our country, and we're not screwing around.